Yo, what's going on? I appreciate everybody for tuning in to today's live. I'm Marcus. This is the channel, The Debt Free Dad. If you aren't subscribed, definitely subscribe. Where we talking finances, current events, attorney reactions. We got a little bit of everything for everybody. But today's video, we're going to talk about something that's about to be a pain in the. I had to see how many seconds went by in this video so YouTube won't demonetize it. A pain in the ass for a lot of people. And student loan payments are about to start back up. So I have a special guest, my homegirl Tasha from over at Major Change Group. Her YouTube is actually in the title of this video. So go ahead, check it out at Major Change Group. If you're interested in learning about finance, if you're interested in learning about how to get that credit score right, what credit card may be best suited for you, all things finance, definitely check out her content. She has some great content and she definitely drops some gems. But we're going to chop it up, talk about student loans, where they're at right now, when the payments are going to start, if or what the Supreme Court is ultimately going to decide. We're going to talk about how Biden finessed y'all, so y'all not going to get it no matter what happens with the Supreme Court. And I'm going to go on my rant because a lot of people about to be in a jacked up situation and it's absolutely your fault. I'm not blaming it on nobody else but you if you meet the requirements I'm talking about. So let's go ahead, welcome my guest Tasha, and let her join the live. What's going on, sis? How are you
What's
doing?
up? How are you doing? Thanks
I'm
for
good.
having me.
Hey, thanks for coming. And I like talking about student loans when you're on the live because I think you're a lot nicer and has a lot more grace than I do.
You already know, but we'll see. We're gonna see tonight.
Yeah, so go ahead. For everybody who don't know, I gave you an introduction, but go ahead and introduce yourself. Let people know where they can find you at.
All right. Hey everybody. I'm Tasha from the Major Change Group, and on my channel, we talk about credit cards, budgeting, and student loans because I do like to talk about the student loans and tonight we're going to get into it. It's been 3 years. Are we ready? Are we not? So let's get into it.
Yeah. So before full disclosure, I'm gonna give y'all since we talking about student loans. DFD got student loans. This is literally
Yeah.
my only non-mortgage debt. So I'm gonna let y'all know
Right.
where we started out at. Okay,
Mhm.
when the pandemic started in 2020, we were at $239,000 in student loans. That very first year, we just paid off everything else: cars, credit cards, rental property. So we got rid of, I don't know, it was like $167,000. In 2021, we said, let's go and focus on the student loan. So we started with the smallest one, which was $109,000. Right now is about $32,000. So we've made some progress, and we aren't really too concerned about the 130,000 that my wife has, because in about 12 to 14 months, because she works in the public service sector, she'll have hers forgiven. So we're not rushing to pay that. We're gonna just keep chopping up, breaking them off with that minimum when payments start, to that whole thing just kind of go away. But that's where I am with my student loans. Now let me ask you, because I know you had
Mhm.
student loans,
Yeah.
and if I'm not mistaken, I think your game plan was, hey, I'm just gonna stash everything up and hit them with one big payment.
No.
Is that the plan? What's going on? How's everything going with your situation?
All right. So my situation, I started out about 59,000 at the time that the student loans had actually went on forbearance.
Mm-hmm.
And really what I did probably for 6 months or so, I was still making my payments on the
Right,
student loans.
right.
And then I was just like, whoa, what am I doing here? So then I ended up getting me a car. So I got me a car. And so for a year, I paid the car off in a year. Then, but see, also my company, they pay $100 to $150 every month on my student loans. So I was still getting payments on my student loans. So
Mm-hmm.
now I'm probably around 54 to 56,000 on my student loans. So originally, when I had paid off the car, because like you, I only have my student loans and my mortgage. That's it. I
Right.
don't have any other debt. And I paid off my car in a whole year. So I was just like, am I gonna tackle the student loans? I thought I was gonna kind of do it, but I don't know. I just couldn't part with it all the way. So I had been saving. I got me a high yield certificate, so I did that. But and then I have me some other little savings on the side. But I really, besides my company making the payments on my student loans, I hadn't been making any additional payments on my student loans. So I'm around like 54 to 56,000 that I owe.
Okay, so let me ask this, and this is a moment of truth question. Is that,
Okay.
and I don't know what you paid for your car. I think you
Mm-hmm.
maybe talked about that on your channel, if I'm
Yep.
not mistaken.
Mm-hmm.
But is there any part of you who wish I didn't get the car, I just put all that to the student loans, or
No.
are you content with the vehicle?
No.
Okay, you said that absolutely. You're like, hell no.
Not at all, not at all. But it was funny because on the one hand, I didn't have to pay the car off in a year because originally I had got it for 60 months. And then I said, you know what? I'm going to pay it off in 3 years. And then I was crunching the numbers and things like that. And then I just said, I'm going to pay it off in a year. And I paid it off in a year. And so I don't know. So once I had finished paying it off, I kind of thought I was gonna start paying on the student loans, but I really do feel like I had got burnt out a little bit. And I
Right,
know
right.
we had talked because we had did a live, and then you were telling me what you and your wife were, like y'all pay it for like 3 months and then like maybe wait a month or something like that. So I kind of considered doing something like that, but I didn't. I was just kind of saving the money and still doing other things. So
Yeah.
that's
See,
kind of where I'm at.
I knew I couldn't save it because if I save it and expecting to put a big ass pot of money on it at the end, the way I'm built, I'm like, no, I got all this cash here. I need to
Right.
hold on to it. It would have been hard for me to do. That's why I was like, let me just pay these people when I could pay them because it's easier for me to accept.
Right, yeah. And I will say, like my sister, she got because she was in the public student loan forgiveness,
Hmm. Hmm.
and she got like over 100,000 of her student loans paid off. So I actually know someone that got their student loans forgiven. So I thought that that was amazing for her.
Right, right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So now let's talk a little bit about just kind of where student loan forgiveness is. We're going to talk a little bit about the debt ceiling because it's some finesse language in that debt ceiling. So, hey, what's going on to my friend from down under? Good morning to you.
Good morning.
And so we're gonna talk about how well I'll rant about how Biden hit everybody with the finesse. So no matter what the courts decide, you probably won't get student loan forgiveness. But I'll start where we kind of are right now is because of the pandemic, President Trump initially put everything on pause, no interest, all that good stuff. And it just kept getting extended. Election time came. Of course, Biden made all these promises. And lo and behold, a couple of years in, right before, shockingly enough, before the midterm elections, he was like, let me go ahead and submit a proposal to forgive student loans, $20,000 or $10,000, depending on what type of loans that a person has.
Right.
Well, a lot of people got letters saying it was approved, which was another finesse move. I don't know if that was an accident or not, but we're going to put that in the accident category.
Yeah, because you know what? I was just like, for one, why did they even make us fill out that form to
Apply,
even,
right?
because it's just like they already know all of our information. So I was just like, that's
Right.
crazy.
Department of Education got all your information if you
Right.
took out a student loan, right?
Mhm.
So I think that was a little bit of gamesmanship, but hey, I can't confirm or deny that. Well, essentially, everybody got these acceptance letters, and everybody was all elated and talking about getting refunds of what was paid. And then the Supreme Court said, "Hold up, Slim, pump the brakes. This guy may not have the authority to actually be able to cancel student loans through an executive order. Executive order is in law school they call it weak sauce. Is the weakest way that an executive, the president, can get something done. Legislation is always the best way, and if you can't do that, you do an executive order. What's the problem with that? Why is it so weak? Because the minute some new president come in, they're going to rip up all your executive orders and
Right.
make their own executive orders. That's just kind of how the game goes. So right now, the case is in court. We have a majority conservative court. I actually did a live where we looked at probably about an hour of the oral arguments. And hey, candor to everybody watching, it didn't look that good out there. It didn't look that good for the justices to say that the president does have the authority to forgive student loans. So right now, that's kind of where things are. The executive order that Biden signed essentially said that 60 days after the courts makes a decision, that student loan payments will resume. So if I'm not mistaken, I think that potentially could put it out to sometime in September if the court renders a decision in June or July. So that's kind of where the court part aspect of things kind of laid out. I'm gonna pass it to you because I know we just had this debt ceiling negotiation, and there were some things in there that impacted student loans. So if you want to, you can go and talk on that for a bit.
Well, I was just gonna say, with because it's with the Supreme Court. So I really kind of feel like they should wait until after the Supreme Court decides before they make us start back with the repayments. That's kind of where I'm at.
Right. Well, I tell you, it was okay. If I had to judge the debt ceiling negotiation, let's just think about it. Nobody in their lifetime who's watching this video ever seen the debt ceiling not get raised. It's going to get raised. They don't have a choice. You know why they're going to raise it? Because a lot of powerful people will lose a lot of money globally if they don't. So it's going to get raised. So if I'm just talking about who has leverage, I personally don't think that the Democratic side needed to give up anything because you think the Republicans would want their donors to say, okay, y'all not going to raise the debt ceiling? They would that's just not an option. Everybody would lose so much money in the stock market. And that's the one thing politicians on all sides love is their stock portfolio. And so from a negotiation standpoint, I personally think that the Democrats had all the leverage because the debt ceiling always get raised. But I'm going to be honest, I think Republicans play politics a little bit better than Democrats, and the Democrats made some concessions. They made some concessions with regard to entitlement programs. There's work requirements now in order to get EBT and SNAP and all of these type of things. And
but that's not so bad. I mean,
well, depending on how you look at it, we've been down this road. States have been down this work requirement road for these types of programs before. I want to say the last time it was done, it was like Alabama or Arkansas, and it ended up being a colossal disaster. And the reason it was a disaster is because, one, if you're going to institute work requirements, you have to hire a whole bunch of staff to investigate it, to be able to, you got to have the infrastructure in place to check it. Then when they actually tallied it all and looked at all the numbers, it was like less than 1% of the people who received benefits actually didn't meet the work requirement. So fiscally, it ended up kind of losing money because it didn't bring as much money as they anticipated because it was more money on the cost to just kind of police it and check it and monitor it and everything. But that's a whole nother discussion. But with the student loans, the agreement was this. From the minute that we sign this and this debt ceiling bill is approved, student loan payments will resume 60 days after that. So this debt ceiling could be passed, I mean, maybe Monday, Tuesday, something to that effect. So 60 days from that date. Problem, like you said, sis, the court decision is still going to be outstanding. So I think you had a fair point. They should have just waited till the court was going to do whatever they're going to do. But that's kind of the language that was in that debt ceiling bill that's going to impact student loan. Now, let me talk about the finesse that was terrible or slick, depending on how you're looking at it. Now, the budget, they ultimately agreed in that bill that only spending that's going to go up is defense spending. Everything else has to stay flat. Next year, everything else can go up 1%. And that's going to be the way it is until 2025. But they essentially adopted a concept called pay-go, which is what we all do if you set a budget. If you're going to spend something, you have to find a place. I can't just go out and buy something $300 if I can't look in the budget and carve out that $300. I just can't get money out of thin air. So they instituted pay-go. In order for any additional money to go anywhere that's non-defense, they have to find somewhere in the budget to cut so that money can go. Now, how does this impact your ability to get student loan? Let's say, even though I don't think so, but let's say the court came out and said President Biden is within his full authority to write an executive order to cancel student loan forgiveness. So the court green lights it and says he can do student loan forgiveness. Student loan forgiveness, you're talking, I don't know, I think the number was maybe 20 billion or 200 billion. It's something with a billion in it. So if the court does say he can do this, now you're talking about he would have to find somewhere in the budget where he can cut out billions of dollars in order to move it over for the loss that they would take when they cancel all those student loans. They damn sure not cutting the defense nowhere in the budget. So it's no way that it can happen, even if the court says yes. So, I don't know if they just didn't want to do it and this was a way to kind of solidify it, but that's kind of where
that's how I feel.
Yeah, I was gonna say that. What's your take on that? When you hit it, that's language is even in there. That's how you feel.
Yeah, that's kind of how I feel. But also, now you can correct me if I'm wrong. What was the Republicans' piece in it? Because really, they wanted us to start back paying our student loans, but then they wanted to backtrack on the individuals that got their public service student loans forgiven. And then they wanted us, what was it about the interest on, they wanted us to kind of go, because they wanted to repeal it, right? To where we'll have to go back a couple of months. So it's just
right.
Yeah, so it's I really didn't necessarily agree on that.
Right.
So it's that's my part. I would have kind of probably stood a little firmer on that part.
Right. The Republicans gonna always go a little extra over the top absurd because I mean it's actually smart on their part. Ask for something crazy and absurd. Then when we meet in the middle, that's really what we wanted anyway.
Right. You know what I mean? Because it's just like on the one hand, that's what I said Biden's whole MO was from the beginning. You see what I'm saying? Because I really didn't feel like, to me, I didn't really feel like Biden ever really wanted to forgive student loans. To me, it was more Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren. And then kind of at the end, he was like, okay, I'll forgive 10,000 student loans with an executive order if I'm elected. And then I feel like if he would have possibly stood firm on that in the beginning, especially at the height of the pandemic, possibly.
Right.
It could have got forgiven. And then because I was always kind of on Biden a little hard. So then once he had actually put in for the student loan forgiveness of the 20,000 and what was it? It was like October of last year. I was like, okay, Biden, maybe you surprising me. You see what I'm saying? But then all the courts and everybody, the 6 or 7 states wanted to, have their case, and 2 other individuals, they had their case, and so it's just like, what's going on? So it's just like it seemed like it was going to go, then it stopped. And then then it's coming around the beginning of this year, and because originally he wasn't going to extend the student loans anymore. So then he had extended it. And then, this year he went on and extended it, but he did it until, I want to say June, but then it was the 3 months. And so I'm just like, Biden, like, why are you kind of, it's like a little bit to make it seem like, but then he won't, give it all. So, that's kind of my take on the whole thing, where I feel like it still kind of fell where he wanted it.
Right. And let's just be honest. If he really wanted to do something about it, he would have did it in year 1 and 2 when the Democrats had the majority and they could have easily pushed it. They probably had to shake up Joe Manchin a little bit, but they had a good chance of actually putting something through the Congress. So I agree with you. I personally think, Biden is older than my father. My father's 72. We know what Biden's politics are. When it comes to economics, when it comes to social programs, he's like a Republican light. You know what I mean? So I'm that shocked. I don't think he wanted to do it anyway. His own party was like, "You can do it," and he was like, "Yeah,
that's can I?" Right. So
he was a little sketch. And so I was just looking at the comments. Aaron said they're not going to raise the debt ceiling. They're going to raise it. we'll never see the debt ceiling not be raised, which is
Mhm.
a stupid
Yeah.
budgeting, economic, mathematical concept. But they're definitely going to have to raise it, because if they didn't, everybody would wake up and their economy would be in turmoil.
Mhm.
It would
Yeah.
be in turmoil. But that being said, I actually did do research, and an actual debt ceiling is something that's, if you think about it, is not really needed. You know what I mean? There are very few countries who actually use that model of having a debt ceiling. Most countries don't really uh, use that model. And yeah, I saw this comment: back pay since forgiveness started. And
Mm-mm.
can you imagine the interest rate, 6 or 7% over 3 years when you didn't make
Right.
payments? People will
Yes.
owe hundreds of thousands.
Right. Because see, what they're saying is like already the average student loan, I believe, is like $233. So what they're saying is already Americans are not wanting to start back because they're saying possible recession and things
Right,
like
right,
that.
right, right.
So they're thinking that the default is going to go higher, especially if they start back the repayment. So you got that. But then also, if you're talking about repayment, like now you want to get me hot. Now I'm okay with us restarting our payments back. I'm ready for that. But don't don't try it with
Tack on the interest.
like on the interest because for me, I'm kind of, I feel like forgiving the student loans now, while I would take forgiveness of student loans, but I don't think that that's really the answer to
Mhm,
the
mhm.
student loan issue. I feel like it's more so in regards to the interest. So I
Right,
feel like we need to tackle the interest and just take the interest off. You see what I'm
right,
saying?
right, right,
So if
right,
we do that, I'm happy. But then if you're talking about tacking on the interest, then I'm really kind of up in arms
right,
in
right.
that
And
aspect.
I agree with you. I think student loan interest should be capped if it's on a federal loan that's held by a federal entity. Sally Mae, Mohila, all those companies. It should be capped at 3%. It should not. Your interest on a federal student loan should never be higher
Mhm.
than 3%. When you
Yeah, because
start
mine
seeing,
is 6. Mine is 6%.
yeah, the average is 6%, and then it's terrible because even if you say you started making payments and payments resumed, and you were like, "Well, I'm gonna refinance to get a lower rate," you can't really get a lower rate now because interest rates
Oh, yeah,
are going up.
exactly,
Because I
because I
actually
will
looked
have
into
to
that.
check that out. That's a great point because I feel like when we started, it could have been 2% with
Yeah,
some
yep.
of the, refinancing, companies like SoFi and things
Mhm.
like that, but now that is a great point. I would have to take a look, but then also refinancing your student loans, if they were on the back end to come in and say, "Okay, we're gonna forgive it if you refinance," and then you're kinda out.
Yeah,
So
people, if you got a student loan and you waiting for them to forgive it, God bless you. I'm gonna just give you a hit. You see, I just said to hell with it, and I start paying mine. So,
Mhm. Mhm.
but yeah, I'm not a glass half full person when it comes to something like that. Now,
Yeah.
here's an interesting question because I put a poll up asking this question, and 90% of the people agree with me. I said, so let's say whatever, 60 days, 90 days from now, whenever payments resume, they start. 12 months after student loan payments resume, what do you think the data will show? Will it show that A, people took that opportunity to, who had federal student loans that they didn't have to make payments on, they took that opportunity and paid down other debt? Will it show B, that people continue to make payments on their student loans? Or will it show C, people got into more debt, and once they were
Mm.
required to make their student loan payments, they were even more over leveraged than previously in 2019 before the.
Hmm. Well, I didn't see this poll, but I think it's a great poll. I actually think I feel like people really started paying off other debts and
Mhm,
got the
mhm.
other debts down. What was it?
Well, 90% said 90%. They probably glass past empty people like me. 90% said, "Man, those people ain't pay off nothing. They start buying extra stuff."
But you know what? I actually like some of the articles were saying, I know maybe like a year ago, that people actually were paying down other debt from what I can remember.
Yeah, well, I think that applied in 2020 because people were making progress excuse me, because they couldn't go any damn where.
But
So everybody,
you think 2022 it
yeah,
kind of, people are getting out
yeah,
more?
2020. That's why the savings rate had increased and people debt limit and credit card limit went down in 2020 because
Mhm.
people couldn't go nowhere, they couldn't spend any
Yeah.
money, and
Mhm.
because of that, people were actually making progress. And then as soon as they opened up the gates and said you could go traveling, now
I
the
know.
average household, this data just came out. I just saw it actually before this live.
Mm.
The average household has about $10,000 of credit card debt. It used to be
Woo,
somewhere in the $5,000 to $6,000 range.
woo, and then those car loans, they was tearing up them car loans too.
Yeah, and then I want to pull this up. Let me pull this up real quick. I, I want to pull it up.
Oh, I
So
think that's what Aaron said too.
so yeah, I just wanted to pull this poll up. And so far we got 289 votes, and 90% of people say that 12 months from now, the data will show that people took more debt and are now over leveraged
Wow.
even more. I was
Mm,
like,
mm,
damn, they
mm,
ain't
mm.
got no faith in
No, they don't
humanity.
have no faith, no faith. Because I feel like people. I thought it would have been higher. I thought people paid off more debt. Like wow. Mm.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I see the credit card use just reached $1 trillion for the first time. The average household credit card debt went up. So I think early on in 2020 we had those numbers, but I think now, and if we look at 12 months from now, even if everybody's talking about recession, the job
Mhm.
market is still not really bad. People can go out and find jobs. So
Right.
yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what the data shows. Unfortunately, I have to agree with my tribe who voted on this.
Really? Oh, come on, y'all. Like seriously. Because it's just like even with you guys paid off a lot of debt, right?
Mhm.
So I don't know. I think I might have to put that poll on my
Yeah,
channel and see.
put it on because I would be interested to see the results. And hey, maybe my tribe, like I said, maybe we just a bunch of we don't got no hope of humanity.
Yeah, but I will say because like travel, because I'm just like even it like I just got back from Vegas last week, and
Mhm.
and then earlier this year I had went to San Francisco. So I mean I've been traveling, but I haven't incurred any additional debt or anything. So
Right. And it's funny because when we talk about student loans, I remember at one point I put a poll up, and it was something like, are you in a better position? It said, are
Mhm.
you in the options were, are you in a better position now than you were in 2018, 2019 with your
Mm,
finances? Are
mm.
you in the same position or are you in a worse position?
I hope
It's,
it's better.
yeah,
Wow, you'll have to put that poll on your.
yeah,
You'll have to do that one again.
about 65% of the people at the time said better. But then the next highest was same. Then a smaller percentage said worse. But
Mm,
I think the interesting thing is let's okay. So we know student loans were paused and no interest only for those federal loans, right?
mhm,
So those federal loans, if I was making a $500 a month payment, then they got paused, right? If Even if I hadn't done anything, I was just living life and the payments resume and I got to start back making $500 payments a month, I'm still technically in a worse off position when it becomes the student loan payments because housing expenses have increased like 17% from 2020 to 2023 where we are now.
mhm.
So even if I could make that $500 payment in 2019, it's not necessarily a guarantee with inflation, gas, food prices, everything else going up that I'll still, even if everything stayed the same, I still numerically, if we look at the math, will probably be in a worse position because inflation had went up over those 3 years.
Oh,
So
man.
it's a cold game out here.
I don't know. We'll have to see. I think people, I don't know. I don't know. I kind of more on a positive outlook. So I would
Yeah.
think people are at least kind of in the same position or better, I would hope.
Oh. Yeah, possibly. We'll see. Put the poll up. Like I said, maybe I got a bunch of maybe the intellectual savages. We just like, nah, we don't got no faith in humanity. Your
Yeah,
people may
that's what
be good.
Aaron said.
Your people may be good, wholesome, kind-hearted, optimists.
I don't no.
So let me ask, okay, the first question before I dive in, because I need to point the finger at some of y'all people out there. But before we do that, before I point the finger, because I'm about to point the finger, and it's gonna be bad. But before we do that, let me ask you this: do you think we'll ever see a time in our lifetime, and the next 40, 50 years, because I can't think of any other situation historically, and unfortunately I'm a historical geek because I like it, but I can't think of a time where the actual United States government paused payments or did anything that would directly impact a household's ability to be able to potentially make financial progress. Like, I mean, we had to wait till the World Health Organization declared a natural disaster. So do you think we'll ever see the government stepping in saying, pause this, no payments in your lifetime ever again?
Nope. I don't think so. Not at all.
Okay, so we're on the same page there, okay? So if someone had federal student loans, and I'm not talking about the people who, hey, if you had an emergency or you lost your income, hey, I understand those things happen. So, hey, this finger pointing rant isn't directed at you folks. But if it was someone, if this was the model person, they had student loans in 2019, they had the funds to make the payments. The payments got paused. They didn't make any progress on their student loans, or for that matter, any other bills. That's your fault and that's your problem. If you fall in that category and you didn't take advantage of what I think we both agree is a once in a lifetime opportunity. Now, corporations may get told in the future they don't have to pay interest on some stuff, but for regular people, this will probably never happen again. If you had the means to capitalize and didn't, I'm just going to say shame on you. That was probably a big blunder on your part. Now, I'm not saying you can't right the ship, but you missed out on a big ass opportunity, and you should
definitely
be yourself into you know what right now. What do you think?
You know, I agree 1000%. But on the same hand, I feel like right now, since we know more than likely, what do you think what is the percentage that the Supreme Court will have a verdict between now and July?
Yeah, I think it's a 90%, 95% chance that they're going to come out with their opinion in probably late June.
Late June?
Yeah, it's going to be late June. It's going to either be the last 2 weeks of June or the first 2 weeks in July. That would be the time frame where I think it's going to come out.
But I still don't think it's going to be in the forgiveness favor.
I agree. I just
so I'm just
I can't see it happening.
Right. So the likelihood that we will have to start paying back our student loans in about 3 months is pretty high, right? Right. So what I'll say is, let's not look at the past. The past is the past. You see what I'm saying? So I'm a budgeter. And so what I would usually what I would say is, if somebody came to me and they said they wanted to get their finances in order, normally I would say, we need to look at the past. How is our spending? Let's get 3 months of our bank statements, our credit card statements, everything. Let's take a look at it. But you know what? That could be kind of traumatic. We're bringing the past in. That's going to be kind of traumatic. So if you don't want to go that route, how about let's just start fresh? Let's start with the month of June, because June is here tomorrow. Tomorrow is June 1st. So let's write down, how much money are we expecting to bring in for June? What are our debts? What do we owe for our regular bills, and then all that kind of stuff. Let's write that down. Let's start fresh there. So what I would say is, right now, the probability of the student loans coming September 1st is a very, very high probability. So how can we prepare now within the next 3 months?
Right.
So that's probably what I would say. So let's forget about the past. If you was living it up and all that kind of stuff, and you wasn't, that's okay. No problem. You see what I'm saying? I'm not gonna hold you on that. But now
I'm gonna hold you on that. I still agree with everything else, but
You don't know. I'm not, you see what I'm saying? But
right.
we have to start now. We have to take control. You see what I'm saying? So we have 3 months. Let's take control now and let's get that budget in. Let's see how can I even just within the 3 months set aside one payment. You see what I'm saying? So that
Right.
maybe I'm just ready for one payment, and then by
Right.
the time the 3 months come, then we're ready to
You
start.
ahead of the game.
Get ahead
Right.
of, you know what I'm saying? Get ahead of the
Right.
game. So I think that's kind of how I would put it, you know, and kind of start there. But I agree 1,000,000% with what you're saying. It's just like if you didn't kind of come up in this situation and it was like a loss to where either you didn't stay the same or get a little bit better, unless it was something that kind of
Right.
happened, then that's kind of, like a waste of opportunity. But let's kind of start hearing now and get our situation together so that we're ready September 1.
Right. That's a good topic to cover. What will be owed in interest since forgiveness started versus what is going to be owed once it ends? The comparison to those who paid the minimum, extra, or nothing. Oh yeah, that would be a good data point to look at.
Mm,
Yeah. That's an astronomical number. If you
yeah.
start talking about interest over a 3 year period, I don't care if the interest rate was 2%, 2% over 3 years. Oh yeah. Hopefully
Yeah.
that doesn't ever happen, and if it does, hopefully I got my shit paid off before.
Ooh, right.
That would be insane. So let me ask you a question, all right? Because I think this whole Biden trying to do the forgiveness and the pandemic, I think it highlighted what you said earlier, that student loan forgiveness isn't the answer. While
Right.
all this process was playing out and people waiting and waiting, in a few months we're going to have a whole new batch of high school seniors signing up to take student loans out to
Mm,
go to college. The rate of college has increased over the past 10 years, something crazy like 70%, where
mhm,
wages are at like 10% or something to that effect. So
mm.
let me ask you a question. Okay, I know we talked about this before, and you kind of mentioned it, that forgiveness isn't the resolution or the way to solve it. That's just a short term thing because people are still taking out student loans.
Mhm.
But do you think that the federal government student loan system should even be in existence? Do you think that they should just say, you know what, we're going to nix this federal student loan program altogether?
I don't know that I would go that far. I think
Hmm.
the program is good. It just needs some like overhaul. You
Right.
see what I'm saying? Because for me, with schools pricing going up, but I do feel like kind of on the back end, they have made it to where more colleges, well, let's say in the state of Tennessee, I believe you can go to a community college for 2 years and you can get that paid, and then you can go on to a 4 year college. And so I think that they're doing things on
Hmm.
the front end to help that. But the issue is student loans now, and with people going into default and the interest. So I really feel like it's the interest that's what's messing it up. But I think that there needs to be more education. But I feel like from the time that I went to school until now, I do think that there's more education in regards to student loans and things like that. And I know that they have a lot of how you can get the scholarships, because there's millions and millions of dollars in scholarships that students don't even use. You see what I'm
Right.
saying? And so I feel like we probably need to lean more to that. And I think that the like for me, I don't know, I don't necessarily feel like student loans are bad. I just keep going back to the interest, because I feel like I could have, if they didn't, like once you go to school and then you have, let's say, 40,000 in student loans. Once you get out, you have your regular interest, and then they tack on all that interest for the 4 years.
Hmm.
And they still keep on adding the interest. And I feel like that's why you can't pay the student loans down.
Right.
To me, compared to, let's say, like a car loan and all that kind of stuff. But then
Right.
additionally, I feel like there needs to be more protections in regards to student loans. Like, auto loan debt and things like that. So
Mm-hmm,
more
mm-hmm.
consumer protections in that regard as well.
Okay. All right. I think that's a fair point. I wanted to highlight this comment here because I was like, man, this is like she read my mind. The student loan program is the problem and is the one area that has not been addressed for
Mm.
change.
But
At,
what specifically do you feel like is the problem in the student loan? Because
eh,
I do feel like there is an issue, but it's not the whole student loan program.
I think I generally, there's always the general rule is, and you can go ahead chime in, Aaron, and answer what do you think is the problem. But let me give you my take on it. The cost and increase of higher education prices directly correlates to when the student loan program was actually created.
Right.
Prior to the creation of the student loan program, the affordability and the rate that college tuition increased was minuscule, a
Mm-hmm.
couple of percentage points a year. Now you see 10%, 17% point jumps in a year. And let's just think about it. It makes sense because private, public, for profit, nonprofit, at the end of the day, schools are about getting that dollar. And a lot of, how could I put this? A student loan is the only loan that anyone in America can get without showing an ability to repay it. Every other loan you get, you have to show ability to repay with the
Right.
exception of a student loan.
Mm-hmm.
So I think what schools do is because they know you can get that loan regardless, let's
Mm-hmm.
come out with books where we rank colleges. You got people cheering for their schools as if they're sports teams because now with college rankings, people have these jaded views of, oh, I'm in love with this school for whatever reason, just because they heard about it or it has this prestigious aura. But because the schools know the federal government is going, if your school costs $20,000, if you want to take $60,000 worth of loans out, they'll let you. And the schools know that. And because of
Mm-hmm.
that, I think that's why you see these prices just increasing. So I
Mm-hmm.
definitely think that the student loan program in and of itself is the problem. Okay. Now, getting rid of it, is that's the solution? No, because there is some benefits to the program because it does allow people who may not have the means to go to actually go. Now,
Mm-hmm.
hey, if some high speed politician out there watching this and you want to propose this, I'm gonna let y'all have this on me. If it were unilaterally up to me, I would have a chart and the statistics to show what is the average first year salary for these majors. Whatever your major is, your student loans that you get throughout your 4 years cannot be more than your first year salary when the average first year salary of a person who graduated with that major. So if you
Mm-hmm.
graduate with a criminal justice degree and the average person with a criminal justice degree makes $45,000 in their first year, you got 4 years to figure out how you're going to allocate this $45,000. That's the maximum loan amount we'll give you because we don't want you to graduate and just be completely over leveraged to where you're making payments, but your loan balance continues to go up. So
Mm-hmm.
I think something like that would be true. But I think the other part of it is, and I feel like we're definitely, and you tell me your thoughts on this, I feel like we're definitely turning the page as a society that college isn't this thing that you just necessarily have to do.
Right. I
Growing up,
agree.
growing up, I think that was the case. And I
Mm-hmm.
don't know about, I had a professor, I was a computer science major. Then when I got my grades back and I saw the D's, I was like, I can't major in this. I ain't gonna be successful. So I went to ask one of my boys who plays sports. I was like, what are you majoring in? He's like, criminal justice. I was like, I'm gonna do that. The
Mm-hmm.
minute I switched my major to criminal justice, I don't know if it's like this at every school, but my school they were brutally honest. The advisor said if you switch your major to criminal justice, you have to go to law school. If you actually want to get in a position where you can make money and make it worth your while, you have to go to law school. And so they kind of let me know up front. But what are your thoughts? Do you think we're turning that corner and people are looking at other options, or you still think what percentage would you say that we're at? We're like, no, you got to go to college just because that's the thing to do. You still think we're there? We're turning the corner.
I think we're turning a corner, because there are a lot more certificates and things like that, and it's not really looked down upon when individuals maybe don't go to college, and then these other trades and stuff are looked upon as well. So I think we're compared to when I graduated high school, really it was like you had to go to college. And if you
Right,
wanted a
right.
good job and you wanted to make, you had to go to college. But I don't think that that's the case like it was.
Mhm.
I don't think
Right,
that's
right.
the case. Mm-mm.
I agree with that. I want to just highlight this comment. We do not go on interest rates here from Aaron. It is based on inflation rates for student loans. So a big discussion now because inflation has increased so much.
Mm.
All right. Then this next comment we got: student loans here are paid directly to the university, similar to Europe. So the only amount needed to cover those costs are provided. Yep,
Yeah,
that's
and I
how it
think
was.
that that's great because I'm wondering, and she'll have to say, does that mean that the college, you kind of it has to be a balancing act to where the college can't just excessively increase their rates because it's paid directly to the college. I wonder
Right.
what she would say.
But then we have our study, which is a social welfare program for students, basically gives them a stipend and is not a part of student loan debt. That's dope.
Mhm.
And it was like that. And when I was in Germany, it was that exact kind of same model. Then we have a graded payback system on income, and it's taken out of paychecks pre-tax. One
Mm.
of the things I saw when I was in Germany, and I thought it was dope. If you were a C student and you wanted to go to college, well, you know what? You're a C student, so we're going to give you 70%. You're a B student, we're going to give you 80%. Like it
Right.
was directly a correlation between your grades, so it was an
Mhm.
incentive to bust your ass to have better grades because that would be a little bit more money that you would get to help supplement the cost of school. So they definitely got some unique and interesting ways out there that they're dealing with things.
Mhm.
So,
Now, was that from high school to college?
yeah, from high school to college.
But you know what? I would kind of push back a little bit on that because I will say for myself, like I was not really good. I didn't make good grades in high school. I didn't really do good in high school. But when I graduated high school and I went to college, I went to community college, like I really blossomed and I did a really good job and I had finished the community college with probably like a 3.4 or
Mm,
higher. But when I was in high school, so to me, that kind of where you had a student like me to where, high school, it just wasn't maybe, I really didn't do as well. But once I got to college and I was especially 2-year college where you're doing mostly your major courses,
mm-hmm,
I kind of
mm-hmm.
succeeded really good in that because it was what I was interested in and things like that compared to high school. So that part I may be speaking from someone that didn't necessarily do as good
Right,
in high
right, right,
school.
right. It will get adjusted. So they use the model similar to that going in. But if in your first year of college you had all A's,
Then it would.
it would be adjusted. But let me ask you this question before I jump back to Aaron's comment. Let me ask you this question: when you had to take out loans yourself when you went to your first 2 years of college when you went to college?
Well, I would say my first 2 years, I think I actually got a Pell Grant.
Mm-hmm.
And so I didn't really have student loans. I did take out some, but very, very little. So I really got the bulk of my student loans when I went to university, so I got my associate's degree, and then I was just like, you know what? I think I'm gonna probably have to go ahead because see, at that time you had to have degrees to really, in my mind,
Right, right,
to
right.
really succeed. And so I said, let me just go ahead and finish. And so then I went to the 2-year college. And when I went to the 2-year college, that's when I got a lot of the student loan debt. And then so I had the student loan debt, but I would say when I graduated, I don't even think I had 40,000 in student loans when I had finished my undergrad. And then 5 years later, or maybe a little bit longer, I had went back and I got my master's.
Mm-hmm,
And
mm-hmm.
I felt like I was kind of behind in that area because everybody that I had graduated, mostly everybody that I had graduated college with, as soon as they had finished their undergrad, they were getting their masters, but I didn't. I just went into the workforce and I started working. And then maybe like 5 years in or something, I was just like, you know what? Maybe I need to go back. So then
Right,
that's when I
right, right,
went back.
right.
'Cause I really didn't want to go back. But then I said, okay, I'll go back. And then that's where I had gotten more debt. And so then I ended up being at a higher student loan amount.
Okay, okay. And I just asked that because you said you were like when you went to college, you just completely turned around your academic performance. And I,
Mm-hmm.
I think that's common. Like, I know it was common for me because I tell this story to my son all the time. I remember one of my homegirls was like, let's skip school. And I was like, man, please. I had to sign my name on them damn loan papers. I was like, you know how much it costs to miss one class? I had the exact dollar amount in my head because I signed that loan. I was so vested, like, I need to be making all A's for this amount of money. That's why I asked, if you had to pay or not. But I do agree. I think in the States, most people can get through undergrad at a relatively reasonable price. Because I would say 80% of my student loan debt was from like graduate school, from law
Mm-hmm.
school. The stuff
Yeah.
from undergrad, it was, I mean, I went to an in-state public school. It wasn't a
Mm-hmm.
lot. The loans, I paid them off like, I paid up my loans off like in 2 years when I was in the military
Mm-hmm.
making peanuts. So I didn't have that much undergraduate debt at all.
Yeah. Hmm. But
That's
see,
kind
I
of
don't know because like now, more students are staying on campus, and then it's so expensive. So I was pretty much probably like a non-traditional student because
mm-hmm.
I worked full time and I didn't stay on campus. So I never
Mm-hmm.
stayed on campus, but one year I did stay at a college apartment for 1 year. But so I worked full time,
Right, right, right.
and so I was more so of a non-traditional. But I know, like, if you are staying on campus and all that kind of stuff, and the meal plans and stuff, like, it could kind of be high. But I believe the national average is still between 36 and 40,000,
Mm-hmm.
around there, if I'm not
Yeah,
making a mistake.
yeah. I know it was actually cheaper for me to live off campus. It was cheaper for me to have my own apartment than it was to stay in the dorms and have meal plan. Like I'm talking about significantly cheaper. Like I was saving something like $6,000 a year just
Right.
paying rent as opposed to
Hmm.
living on campus and them
Right.
telling me I had to go home every winter. And Aaron
Hmm.
comments, she says that the price of university, I like how they say uni,
Yeah.
it's, it's set by the government because they are pretty much the ones funding it, about 6,000 per year, depending on the major. I think
Hmm.
that kind of makes a little bit of sense in my opinion.
Hmm.
Other funding comes from research grant and international students who pay 3 times the price.
Ooh, oh my goodness.
Yeah, I know. My son, I wish my son would be like study abroad. You want to study abroad? All right, well,
But you know
God
what?
bless
I
you.
think I really feel like I think it should be an overhaul in what you have to take, because even once I had got my associates and then I had went to university, and then I still had to end up, even though I didn't have to take as much, I still end up having to take like a chemistry and science and all that. But I was a business student. It's like, why do I have to even do that? You see what I'm
Right,
saying? If
right,
that's
right,
not going to
right.
be, so I feel like they shouldn't make you take those courses if you, like science and
Why
stuff
I'm
like that.
taking these big, yeah. If I'm doing something finance related, why am I in biology? Like, why
Right.
is biology a mandatory course? Why am I in
Hmm.
music? like,
Right.
yes, I definitely agree with that as well. But that's part of the finesse, because I mean, law school really should be 2 years, not three. That third year of law school, I was like, man, can we get out of here, please? In learning trades, we have what's called the TAFE. I know I'm going to say that wrong. TAFE, and they're eligible for loans, student loans, for that as well. Yeah, I know. That's what. Well, you could always get dual citizenship and go to Australia. That sounds like it's a plan.
And that's where you from?
Yeah, yeah. Grad schools hit you, especially with the out of states. Yeah,
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 grad school. That's where it's at.
yeah. That's where they going. Yeah, that's when they're gonna ring you over the head. Especially, don't be like me. Don't go to grad school trying to be high speed when you got a wife and kid. I was like, man, I need to take out a couple extra dollars for this loan because I got to make sure these fools can eat.
Yeah, and I was going to say that too, because sometimes even the undergrads, a lot of the times
Oh, that's
they
cool.
are using the money for other things, not
Right.
just school. And so that's why you see Because it's just like, yes, 40, I want to say 43 million Americans have student loans, but how many of those people actually finish? You see what I'm
Right,
saying?
right,
People
right,
actually
right.
go to school and then they, they don't always finish.
Right. And it says, I thought this is a good, like we just talked about, degrees are 3 years here as well. No 101 courses for
That's it.
across all possible majors. I think that's a big thing. I think that's a big thing that probably needs to be done because those first freshman orientation courses, they suck. Yeah.
Yeah.
She is from the US, but she renounced her. It's like, nah, I'm messing with you.
Oh, she like Tina Turner where she gets.
Yeah, yeah, but she's been out in Australia for the
Wow,
past
that is
15
cool. She
years.
has a YouTube channel.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
We can
Aaron
talk about
Budget
that.
Game
That'll be
Whisper.
pretty cool. I'll have to check
Yeah,
her channel out.
yeah. It's cool too when they do it because their money is like real pretty. And anytime I watch her videos, my daughter be like, "They got some pretty money." I just be like, "Girl, if you go sit down somewhere." Yeah, I named my student loan Maserati because that is what I could have paid by the time I done my
Wow, she has a PhD. Ooh, that's pretty good.
Yeah, I know, right? PhDs are dope. I know people who go to law school and then they go get a PhD because they want to be called Doctor such and such Esquire. I was like, that's the stupidest thing. Literally, it's for no reason. Isn't that changing their job prospect? Isn't that changing their income? They just want the title. I've never seen anything like that. No, I
Mm.
have not renounced. You see how much they charge for renouncing?
Wow.
Everything is about the budget with her.
That's smart. That's smart.
Yeah, she's like, what? I gotta pay a fee? No, I'm gonna go and keep this. I'm gonna go ahead and keep
I
this.
know that's right.
But yeah,
Wow, that's cool.
I think is interesting. I think the gems you gave out and give those points again because if you haven't been able to capitalize, okay. I know I shamed y'all if y'all just went out and bought a Tesla. I'm sorry, but go ahead cry. But go ahead and give those 3 points again before we, get ready to close things out on. If you haven't taken advantage, what should you be doing right now knowing that payments are probably 90 days or so away from starting? I thought that was good to give. And this would be a great short for you to use. Let me go and
Yeah.
give you the.
Yeah, so I definitely would say, even however wherever you are right now, I would say one, just kind of start June 1st, create a budget and just one, write down like how much money are you bringing in, and then how much money are all of your bills, and then how much debt do you have? Kind of get a baseline on how much money you have coming in compared to going out. And then second, possibly one, you want to get you like kind of like a rainy day fund or an emergency fund, start 500, 1,000 or whatever. And then next, put aside some of that money. So, within the next 3 months, maybe you can save up one payment. So then that way, once September the 1st comes, you'll have your payment and you won't be scrambling around. You're still kind of prepared. But within those 3 months, you can still kind of put some money aside so that you're ready and it's not going to be such a shock. So kind of start there. But if you really kind of want to go back, then pull 3 months of your bank statements, your credit card statements, and really kind of see where your money is going, where your spending is, to see where you can kind of cut back here or reallocate the money to where you will be ready.
Right, right. I think that's great advice. I got a couple of quick questions I want to ask just to get your opinion on, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Question number one. Do you think parents should sign for Parent Plus loans for their students? I already saw how your head shook.
Mm. Mm. What I'll say, this is what I'll say, because if I remember it correctly, only if you know that you will be denied. You see what I'm saying? Because if you deny, then the student will get more money. But I feel like, how I feel about co-signing, because I've co-signed for something, and co-signing is never good. And then we hear these stories of parents co-signing a lot of these student loans, and the student is not paying it back. They don't went on with their life and created their other life, and then the parent is still paying that loan if they got the Parent Plus loan. So I
Right.
would say no.
Right. Right.
I would
Right.
say no. And so, like if you have kids and let's say they're in high school, at the 9th grade, start setting aside some of that money to where once they get to, let's say if they're gonna go to college, they can have a little money set aside to where you don't have to do a cosign or something like that. But I would say usually, unless you are willing to pay it. So I'm not going to necessarily say never co-sign, but co-sign under the guise of this is going to be my loan. So
Right. Right.
that there's no bad blood or anything like that, to where if they don't pay it back, there's no harm, no foul. But I would
Yeah.
say don't co-sign.
Yeah, I think that's a good general rule. Somebody actually recently, they didn't ask me, but you could tell they were insinuating if, like, oh man, if I just had a cosigner, right? Now the fact pattern of this, it wasn't a student loan, because at least I wouldn't co-sign a student loan for my son, but I would do that before I did something else. You know what I mean? If I had to do a cosign, I would probably rather do it for education as opposed to a car. You know what I mean? But somebody reached out. They wanted to get a vehicle, right? I explained to them this vehicle is a bad idea. The car you want is the same amount of money that you make per year. I was like, it's a bad idea. And their mind, how it is when you just think about the monthly payments. And I was like, no, think about the monthly payments. Look at the price of the car. That would be crazy if I made $100,000 and I went out and bought a $100,000 car. And so I asked them, I thought this was smart because, hey, DFD, my mom, a missionary when I was growing up. She's a minister now. So I know the Bible and I know this person. So I said, are you a Christian? And they was like, why, yes, I am. I knew they was going to say, why, yes, I am. I asked that for a reason. So I said, well, you know what they say in Proverbs 22, verses 26 through 27, and I quote, whoever puts up a surety for a stranger will surely suffer, but whoever refuses to shake hands and pledge is safe. And I said, I love you, but I would like to stay safe. I asked them because I know they're going to say, well, yes, I do believe I am a Christian faith. And I was like, I'm glad you said that. Let me point you to this real quick. But I think I definitely agree with that. How I do it, and some parents will look at it differently. And you could tell me your thoughts on it. Like when my son graduates next school year, we'll probably have about $25,000 to $27,000 set aside for him to go to school, right? Then the way I put it is, hey, this is what we'll have set aside for you to go to school. Then me and my wife looked at our budget and we said, look, this is how much we can continue to pay per month to support his education.
Wow.
Right?
Okay.
So as an example, let's say we had $25,000 for him to go to school, and we said that our budget allows us to put an extra $5,000 a year up. That's a total of $45,000.
That's great.
Over a 4-year period where you can get it done in. And so, our general rule is this is what we got for you to go to school. Where you pick and elect to go, that's up to you. But if you go somewhere that costs more than what we got, you got to figure out the rest. Like you can always do what I did. You could go be all you can be. but that's kind of our approach that we're taking up. So it's interesting. I'm not a big fan of co-signing, but I figured, man, the head start we're giving him is a lot better than the head start most people have. Is a lot better than the head start that I have. So and if he goes that first year and messes it up, okay, I don't pay for D's. I'm probably not gonna pay for a bunch of C's. I'm gonna be honest with you. So if you let you be on academic probation, you're gonna be signing some student loans. But the one agreement I made with him, I try to entice him to get if you get a full scholarship and you don't have to pay for school, for that first year, or we'll give him $10,000. That's an incentive. If your school is paid for, you get $10,000 to do whatever you want, and I get my sports car. Everything works out. I
That's
spend that
funny.
money so fast on a sports car.
And look, you'll have to see what Erin said. You'll have to put her comment because that is pretty funny.
Oh, let me see this long one right here.
Yeah.
Let me see. Not gonna lie, I don't like my brother. We don't talk at all. So I wish she would have co-signed when I moved to Australia. I could have.
That was funny. Not right.
Oh man, that's terrible. That's terrible. I don't know. My moral compass wouldn't allow me to do that, even if I didn't like them. I'd be like, damn, this person's an a-hole, but I don't want them to wear that because I may not believe that people go do the right thing with their student loan when they had their forbearance, but my moral compass would probably bother me. But you would probably sleep like a baby, Aaron. That is hilarious. That's hilarious.
Yeah, I wasn't ready for that.
Yeah, I know that. Everybody chuckling at her comments, right? That's funny. But I think that's I made a set agreement with my daughter. Yeah, I think that's the way to go. If you make an agreement like that, you give them a little bit of leverage. You let them take a little bit of ownership. And, I don't see the point of my son getting a degree at the cost of me stretching myself thin financially. And I'm going to just be honest, like, my son work ethic, I don't know, man. If I had to pick one of my kids if I had to co-sign for one, it damn sure wouldn't be him.
He might surprise you once he graduates.
Hey, he is ridiculously smart, but he suffers from what a lot of smart people suffer from because things come so easy. He doesn't work as hard. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
My daughter, on the other hand, now she ain't gonna let nobody outwork her. She got that work ethic where if I don't get it, I'll lock myself in the room and figure it out till I get it. She ain't pay me back. My son, he probably wouldn't pay me back. He might have me in a veterans nursing home. My daughter will look out for me.
That's funny.
Yeah, but I appreciate you, Tasha, for taking the time, chopping it up with us on student loans and everything. And like I said, put that poll up because I want to see what your folks say. I think they're a little bit more optimistic. It's like, hey,
we'll have to see.
We keep it a buck. Hey, y'all make sure y'all go check out Major Change Group. Tasha has a dope channel. And hey, especially with the credit card stuff. Like she tell you how to flex them points and getting trips paid for with only points in the whole 9.
Right.
So y'all check out her content. As always, hey, we're grateful for you tuning in. Y'all take care. Be blessed and have a good one. Peace.